Oh, God, boys.
Oh boy.
Boy, Alberto.
Good.
All right. It's about that time, you know? It's been a little bit. We took a little breather, if you will. But we're back. We're here at Jake's place. This is Whatchu Spinnin, episode 52. As per usual, 52 also my favorite number, by the way. Shout out. As per usual, I am Dorian running the ship today. We've got Jacob to my left. How are you doing, boss man?
Doing great.
Hell yeah. What about you, Matt?
I'm doing great.
Hell yeah.
Thank you.
Y'all do anything cool this week or weekend?
Got a fresh cut.
You got a fresh haircut?
Clean
Hell yeah.
cut.
Nice.
Yeah. That's
You
it.
got
I cut my own hair.
yeah.
Yeah.
I did mine last weekend.
Yeah.
And then you got some good
A couple of new vinyls and
couple new
things
schmackers.
for the collection.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So why is number 52 your favorite number? What's the story there?
See, I started playing football when I was in 8th grade, and like I played line, so like, you know, wearing a cool number like 12 or something wasn't really an option. Mm-hmm. And then we had one weird thing from elementary school that always stuck with me was that there's always 52 weeks in a year.
Okay.
And so I was like, 52. I also kind of like the way that looks. And so I grabbed that, and then the rest is history. And
Interesting.
Yeah. And then I also played for a school that was super fucking poor. And so we didn't have the same home or away jerseys because we did a fundraiser to get new home jerseys. So I got 52 then. And then the away jerseys were old as shit, and they didn't have 52. So I did 42 because that's the meaning of life from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Okay.
And that was also my basketball number. So yeah, it was pretty fun. Yeah, random.
Wow.
They look similar too, the numbers.
Yeah, exactly. I noticed you've fucking...
Yeah, I was trying to do something weird with it.
trying to do something weird. Interesting little segment.
Football.
Deep dive into myself.
Do you wear those 1-bar helmets?
No,
You were
I'm
definitely-
26. I'm not 85. Jesus
You were definitely
Christ.
a
You think I'm
one-bar
fucking Fred Bolitnikoff or something?
Yes.
It's just a 1-bar kicker helmet?
Yeah.
No, that's always... But speaking of that, anytime, like NFL free agency or something, anytime someone gets fleeced in a trade, that's my favorite reference to make is like, yeah, this player got traded for a bag of footballs and a 1-bar
Yeah.
kicker helmet from the 70s. It fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Don't know what the fuck they're doing.
It's the best helmet, dude.
great pull.
I'd rock
Yeah,
it.
that was good.
Hell yeah. Well, boys, let's go ahead and dive right on in.
Yeah.
We've got 3 banger
to the
albums.
music.
Yeah, back to the music. We've got 3 fucking fantastic albums to talk about today. I'm really stoked to talk about these. And someone knocked it out of the park when the other 2 can, just automatically say, yeah, I'm stoked to talk about that, so let's do it first. And so that being said, Matt, what are we talking about first, boy?
An album that came out this year by Billy Woods and Kenny Segal called Maps. Very cool album cover. One of my favorite album covers of all time. Simple, but I don't know.
Send me pictures of that, of the front and back.
I will.
Or at least the back, so that way I
Yeah.
can put it up.
Very clever. Has, to me, like, it caught my ear when I listened to a few tracks when it came out because of the ambient type samples and just the vibe it had. It was slower, faster, and at times it was kind of just out there. And each song's so different, and it's captivating in a way that some hip hop, it just does that sometimes.
Yeah.
And for coming out in 2023, I think it's probably one of the better albums that's come out this year. And
Definitely.
it's just, you have to listen to it to appreciate it. I've never been a fan of Billy Woods because I've never listened to him. And
Yeah.
I've slowly, started to. And when this album, came out, I was just like, wow. And the production behind it's amazing. Kenny Segal's a great producer with that, whatever he's doing, the beats part, whatever he does behind the scenes is amazing. And he adds that vibe to where just Billy Woods can just lay any rhyme or any bar on top of it, and it sounds fluid. It doesn't sound rehearsed. He's just talking about his life over the last 2 years with COVID and traveling and touring and flying and layovers and just the things he's seen and just relating that to his life, which is so simple, but it's so accessible to where any fan of hip hop just can sit down and listen to this album and be like, wow,
Yeah.
this is tight.
And for people that have a deeper appreciation for hip hop, because it is such a popular genre now at this point that people just put it on to put it on, and they're like, oh, the I feel like there's, and this is me being a fucking music snob and kind of being egotistic, but whatever, fuck it. You know, the stuff that we've referenced, you know, that's really popular nowadays, like DaBaby and everything, fucking shout out, love that guy though.
Baby, oh baby.
There's stuff that doesn't have a lot of substance to it. Like there's not much past, you know, what you hear at first listen. And so for a lot of people that, you know, kind of just stick with that stuff and they don't, you know, dive into the more abstract pieces, you know, say Billy Woods, Boldy James, you know, Elzai, you know, some of the artists that we've covered, where it's really a project that you have to listen to and really appreciate the production on this paired with Billy Woods. It's again, I thought we found the one when we covered Haram on episode 10. I was like, Jesus Christ, like Billy Woods and Alchemist, like that's a hell of a pairing. But no, I think at times I was like, man, Kenny Segal and Billy Woods, like that's really fucking impressive, because it is, you know, very ambient sounding, and then paired with the eccentric lyricism and just Billy Woods' brain. Phenomenal. I love it.
I think it's crazy that Billy Woods, just as a rapper, he is one of those rappers that I feel like you need to listen to and you need to get used to, because his rhymes and his raps, they go over your head.
Yeah.
Like I had to listen to this a couple of times because a lot of it went over my head.
Yeah.
Like it was just so many layers to it, so intricate. It was funny. I was looking at a review of this album of a professor. I'll send you guys a link that he like reviews albums, and he kind of does it like to like a historical sense, kind of, and like more detailed.
Okay.
And it was like an hour and 30 minutes long. Like he was talking about this album. Fucking nuts.
That's really
and
cool.
He got really detailed about everything about it. And it's you can do that because it has so many layers to this. Not only with his rapping, that at some points it's like borderline spoken word, but also with the beats too. Kenny Segal, he has like a very fine-tuned ear for his beats that he does. They're very experimental. Sometimes there'll be like just a jazzy snare. Sometimes there'll be something just real synthy, kind of sounds like Brian Eno that you said earlier, Matt. Like just bizarre. So the fact that they both got together on this again, they knocked it out. Like they knocked it out. So yeah, I'm glad you brought this up. I had heard like the singles on this, and I was like, it's all right. But then listening to the full thing, man, it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. And even like the features that he has, he brings back the Lucid.
The features on this. Sorry to cut you off. The fucking features on this, like Jesus Christ.
I like that they're also like very much like underground rappers. Like Quelle Chris, also super good.
Shout out.
Like great album for sure.
Yeah. And speaking on when this was released, it was released May 5th, as you had said. And I was out for Cinco de Mayo, hanging out with some people, and we're all in a group text. Obviously, you can't run a show like this if you're not in a group text. And I'm, I had a couple drinks in me,
Guy over here.
And was enjoying some greens, and Matt texts the link to this album, and I'm like, yeah, I did just see that Billy Woods came out with an album. What the fuck? And then I was like, wait, Matt, because I saw it come through, and I was like, Jacob's sharing this. And then I looked again, and I was like, wait, what the fuck? I was like, Matt. I was like, no way, Matt's getting into Billy Woods. Let's go. Fucking dude, yeah, I got so geeked. I was like, how the fuck did you find? I was like, how did you stumble upon him? And so, dude, like, was it just random? Like, popped up on your Spotify, or
since we've been doing the podcast, I do a lot of research on the musicians we talk about, so a lot of my feed will have random things, and one of them is Pitchfork album reviews. And as much as I hate Pitchfork, because a lot of their reviews are just whack. It's a good word for it, whack. They had a review for this album, and it was like an 8.4 or something, which again, stupid. Like, what 8.4? What does that mean? And I'm like, all right. And so the album cover again, it just captured. You're like, what? It's very bright, and it's very like, I don't know,
all over the place.
Funny in a sense. You start looking at some of the things going on.
Like the the thing that you get at the airport, like when you're in your seats in the airplane.
Yeah, the directions.
The brochure, yeah.
And then I started looking at the features on the album. I was like, oh, and that's when I sent you the Aesop feature, and I was like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because we had just talked None Shall Pass, like the week prior.
And so the next morning I went on my morning walk, and I just played the album from start to finish, and like, a couple tracks in, he's rapping about Joe Burrow and William Burrow in the same bar, and you're just like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, I had to rewind that. I was like, was he rapping on Joe Burrow, the quarterback? I was like, oh. And then William Burrow, the poet. I'm like, this is cool.
Yeah. Okay, bet.
Oh, I didn't catch it. Whoa, that's cool.
Yeah, I forgot what song it is, but
Soft Landing.
Soft Landing, yeah. He's just like, man. And
if you want to know anything about Soft Landing, I got you.
Just his flow and his lyricism just was like, wow. And so I just kept playing the album over and over. I was like, Jesus, I got to get this when it comes out.
The reason why I ask, and the reason why it like threw me for such a loop, I was like, that's so funny, because literally the episode before you joined was when we talked to Rom, and I had told you, I was like, hey, go. I was like, if you like Billy Woods, like go check that out, because I know that you like Alchemist as well, because we've covered him a couple of times. So no, I just thought that was hilarious. I was like, yo, Matt's getting into Billy Woods. I was like, hell yeah, let's go. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. But yeah, it's kind of to touch on what Jacob said about, at first listen, it kind of throws you off. And I was kind of, at the end of it, I was glad that we took that extra week, so that way I could listen to all three of these again multiple times, because every time you listen to this, to Maps in particular, something catches your ear from song to song that is different from the last time you heard it, like Baby Steps. The first couple of times I listened to it, I was in love with Elucid coming in at the end of it, but then this week when I was listening to it, I was like, no, that beat is actually really fucking spooky and like kind of cool, almost haunted house kind of. It is kind of spooky. I was like, I kind of like that, and it was something I didn't realize until probably my fourth listen in. I was like, damn, some of this it's really a mind fuck to listen to a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like Billy Woods too, like his rapping style, he is like so catered towards like the people that you listen to it, you like have to really think about what he's rapping about.
And
like with rap, like I feel like it's easy to rhyme stuff, like just rhyming, like wood with good or whatever. But with his rapping style that he does it, like it makes you think about like his word and what that word means. Like he'll say stuff I've never heard of.
Yeah,
like when we were talking about Haram. Performative or praxis, I was like, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
So I looked into it, and I feel like he does that a lot. He's like so educated, and like the way that he's rapping, like it caters towards people that like kind of look into more things and like get to like, I guess, educational about it.
Right.
Which I think is really cool that he does that. That he's like so much more than just a rapper that's like give me the best beat you have and I'll flow 16 bars. Like no, he's like thinking about it, and he like kind of goes borderline spoken word, and his delivery is like super good every time.
And it's an interesting delivery, and I think it kind of ties back to the sometimes you'll miss a really good bar or lyric that he's written because he kind of raps and run on sentences at times. Like the beat, you can kind of tell it's got, okay, so this is where like the bar would start, and he's still finishing something up because he's just sitting there. He almost raps and run on sentences, which if you went to grade school, run-on sentences aren't good on paper, but if you rap them in a particular way, it fucking kills, Like that whole segment where he's talking about Joe Burrow, William Burrow, and then goes on into the Biggie, it's just, you're like, holy shit, has he taken a breath in like 30 seconds? Like,
what's going on?
My man, there are no commas or punctuation in this fucking thing, this whole spiel he's going on. And it is he does rap in a very particular way that is just top-notch in my opinion.
Yeah, it's definitely makes me think about a lot more like rapping, especially when I listen to him and his stuff. His work has always been very abstract, very like two-dimensional. When like listening to his other albums, because he just released Church like not too long ago, and then Ethiops, I think. That one's also a super good album. This is their second time working together. They did Hiding Places back in 2017, 2018. And that album was also like super good. A similar beat, Kenny Segal, he's very abstract with his beats. And Billy Woods, just his delivery that he has with everything kind of really sets him apart. To a lot of people. But yeah, man, it's nuts how like this just came out like literally a month ago, and like all the physical copies on it like are sold out. Like,
oh yeah,
you're not finding it anywhere for like less than $100. Like,
flex on us real quick, man.
like yeah, like there's always artists that like their music like appreciates so quickly, and Billy Woods is one of those. Like any of his stuff, if you don't get it the day it comes out, good luck getting it for the same price anywhere.
Well, it's like Haram. When I bought my copy that you sold me, at the time, and I have the alternate cover, which isn't as popular. It was still going for $150, $200, and it took like 2.5 years for that to drop in price on resale platforms, and it's still going for fucking 80 to 90.
Yeah.
Like, so for something that at drop you can get for $30, like that really speaks to the music, and then also just how niche the fan base is, because I feel like you got to be kind of out there to like Billy Woods, and collecting records is pretty popular nowadays, but again, it's kind of a weird dichotomy.
It's quick too. Like when you said that, like when you told us like, hey, I've been listening to this, I got it coming in the mail. I checked online on their website. I'm like, let me see if they still have copies. Sold out, and I imagine it sold out within the same day.
Oh yeah,
like definitely within the same day it sold out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've watched you get your heart broken multiple times on releases because it's just how it is.
Yeah. Back to the production side of this album too. I feel like it starts off great, and then it's like got the middle, but the last part of the album is kind of my favorite.
Yeah,
there's a lot of great songs towards the end, like with Houdini and like Baby Steps and all those tracks. New York City Tap Water,
NYC Tap Water, so good.
Yeah, like those are all so
That's a great
just
title.
slow, and I was high all day, I escaped.
Yeah.
Cool, just like one-liners like that. He has so many of them on this album. I could quote lyrics all day.
Oh yeah,
with this album, because he's so clever with his rhyme scheme.
And the features on it, just to go back to that, you've got Quali Chris, as we mentioned, Elucid. So you basically get an Arm & Hammer, a couple reunion tracks on this, and then you get weird ones like fucking Danny Brown.
Yes,
but
Year Zero is a great song.
Year Zero, it's
another
like
spooky.
Yeah, exactly, kind of spooky out there, which is perfect for Danny Brown to hop on. But if you would have told me like Danny Brown being on a Billy Woods track was not on my 2023 rap bingo card, and then even more so than that, A$AP Rock being on this album, because y'all know I'm a huge rock fan.
That was like
A$AP
perfect
fan.
when we brought it up. It like
literally 2 weeks, a week later, I was like, what the hell? I was like, and A$AP and Billy Woods actually they're like kind of almost peanut butter and marshmallow puff, you know what I mean? Like that shit.
That'd be a cool collab. They just did an album together by themselves.
Yeah, or even just like a little EP. Fucking fuck it. Give me five
five and I'm good.
Give me 5 tracks. Yeah, I don't give a shit. Don't work too hard, but please give me more. No, love it, man. Loved this album. I'm probably gonna have to wait again 2.5 years before I can snag it, but yeah, I'm definitely on the hunt.
Yeah,
I'm like a leopard.
Gonna pounce. Yeah. No, it's a good start for the year for music, and I feel like it's gonna be an album of the year, if not for hip hop, but just for me in general. There's only a few albums that have come out this year that have caught my ear. Yeah, and this is one of them. Regardless of what genre you like, this is accessible on any level. Yeah, it's got that production side of it that's got the jazzy, like Blue Smoke has that weird jazzy drum real fast in the beginning, which is really cool. So I mean, anybody can play this, and he's just dropping lyricism with I don't know, he's got such a good flow. Yeah, so I think you can listen to this and not be turned off by anything he says at all.
It's very intellectual almost too.
It's not crude, it's not really vulgar in any way. It's very like, I don't know, just him being himself, which is cool. You don't see that a lot in hip hop anymore. It's there, but it's very rare.
You really gotta
dive into it.
You gotta really look for it. Yeah. Because we're not talking about a guy. We're not talking A$AP Rocky here. Like Billy Woods isn't as huge as a lot of these rappers, and so you really do kind of, if you want to find shit like that, you really gotta dig through the ditches, burn through the witches. You know.
He kind of does have that mystery to him too. Like all of his music videos. All of his pictures, like he like kind of blurs himself out.
He does the same on the album cover.
Yeah, I noticed that the cover. It's like he doesn't paint his face. He doesn't put anything on his face.
Even the music video for Soft Landing, he's wearing the fucking balaclava.
Yeah, everything on Haram, all the videos for that, it's either like just a black screen, or it's just like fuzzy.
Huh.
on his face.
Interesting. I
mean,
it.
there's pictures of his face. Like,
Yeah.
everyone knows what it looks like, but it's like,
Still tries to have that, sense of obscurity. I do appreciate that. Well, Matt, do we have any more things we want to touch on, or shall we talk through it?
We can dive into the top three.
Yeah.
I mean,
if we want to keep nerding out, we can.
There's so many good lyrics in this album. It's just hard not to talk about.
Fuck it, pull one, dude. See if I give a shit.
Paper and pencil. I wrote the verse like Hangman. I mean, it's just simple.
Yeah. There is just so much stuff like that. Shit. Let me. Here, yeah, actually, let's.
I got one more. Since the spot got a grill, I've been working the fire. If it's cool in the shade, I'm gonna chill. If it's cool with you, I'm gonna hit my supplier.
Oh, nice.
Come on, man.
It's
just so fluid.
When I'm listening to our albums, I'll take screenshots of like songs that I like, and I haven't taken as much screenshots of an album than this one.
Yeah.
Like, I took like 6 screenshots of like, oh, that's a good song. Oh, that's a good song too. Oh, that's a good song. And like, I had to delete all of them, and I'm looking at it right now. I have like 7 songs that I deleted because like I'm just like nerding out about it.
There are so many.
Yeah, any lyric that you have, it's like a clever one-liner that you're like kind of have to stop and think about it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, double meaning to it, you know, or like, oh, there's a different side of this. Like, it's
Yeah. And I mean, y'all know I'm a big Notorious B.I.G. fan, and there's multiple references throughout the whole album, but my favorite one in particular, which is why Soft Landing will be, top 5 on my Spotify played this year. This line right here: the worst people will wiggle out the rubble. Maybe suicidal thoughts was the everyday struggle. And it's like, dude, even just reciting it, I get fucking goose pimples. Like, he fucking references 2 of my favorite fucking songs off of Ready to Die.
Yeah,
like,
suicide thoughts is
the everyday struggle. I was like, Jesus. Made me go back and listen to that whole album.
I did not catch that.
Yeah, he's got so many in there,
yeah. And
it's stuff like that. It's like, wow.
Yeah. Unreal.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I'll dive in top 3.
Go ahead.
Honorable mention, I had a few in there. Soundcheck. I like the way that song flows. And then NYC Tap Water.
Yep.
That title just sounds grimy.
It is.
Yeah.
It's
definitely
dirty.
sounds grimy. Then 3-2-1, I like Houdini. Baby Steps. And then it was a toss-up between Rapper Weed and Hangman, so I'm going to go with Hangman.
Hell yeah.
That's my top track. Rapper Weed's a great song, too.
Nice. Jake, you want to
go? Yeah, honorable mention. I'm going to go As the Crow Flies.
Nice.
Great ending track. Top 3, I'm going to go The Layover.
Nice.
Baby Steps. Because I love that Elucid's on that, and very abstract beat, and then Rapper Weed. It's just that good old boom bap beat with Billy Woods on it. Like, it's
perfect.
A little chime.
Yeah. Honorable mentions for me, go Waiting Around. Again, sucker for anything with Aesop Rock on it. Can't beat that. Honorable mention, part 2, Rapper Weed, and then 3-2-1, Babylon by Bus, number 3, number 2, Baby Steps, and then number 1, Soft Landing. I cannot get enough of that fucking song.
Babylon by Bus, that's a good track.
Yeah.
We didn't really talk about that.
Kind of a sleeper one.
Yeah,
I kept going back to it. I was like, man, I feel like this one.
I heard that on the way over here. I was like, oh, I forgot about this track.
Yeah, Babylon by Bus. Well, fuck yeah, man. That was Maps by Billy Woods, released not even a month ago. We're reviewing it hot off the presses. Really actually dig the fact that we're doing that. We'll be right back to go into Jake's pick for this week. We'll be right back. All my exes live in Texas.
Crosby does it every once in a while, just randomly.
Just sings that?
Yeah, because I played it for him once. It caught his ear. Probably the country
dude, it is an earworm.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about that. Like, there's some songs all across the board, but the one thing that, like, when people ask me what kind of music I listen to, I'm like, everything but modern country. But there's caveats to that, because there are some, like, fucking There's some modern, I mean, shit that came out like almost 20 years ago at this point, but there's some songs that are just such earworms that I just
Right.
full on, like, the honk in me comes out, and I gotta.
Stapleton?
George Strait, good.
Dude.
Yeah, he's good.
Alright. Fucking funny you mentioned that.
You look like Chris Stapleton?
Yeah.
You do.
Join the fucking club. You're like the 180th person to tell me that. I'm writing a bit about that, actually. But also, fun fact about Chris Stapleton.
You can flash a picture.
I will.
I will. Chris
Just
Stapleton
stand still.
No, Chris Stapleton is actually really good country singer.
No, he is.
He's fantastic. He had a bluegrass group before he went solo, actually, called the Steel Drivers, and they're very fucking good. If you,
I'm gonna look into that.
I think it's the self-titled album, but there's some smacks.
Like, come on.
Oh yeah, hey,
I know that guy.
Yeah, I just aged faster.
that's your long lost uncle.
Yeah, here, let me see.
Yeah, actually, we were just listening to it the other day. We were watching it. He has a tiny desk.
Does he really?
Yeah.
Cool.
Pretty
What?
good.
Yeah, so the self-titled album by the Steel Drivers.
Okay.
Check that out.
Oh, okay.
If it's really good, it's just good bluegrassy, like fucking throw some wieners and burgers on the grill and play that, dude.
The girl's out there.
Yeah, exactly.
He's out there.
But no, my mom got really into Chris Stapleton like right when he started getting big, and she always told me, she's like, he just reminds me of you because he plays guitar and sings and he looks like you. And then people in high school would always tell me that shit. Like people nowadays are like, anybody ever tell you look like? And before they even say, I'm like, Chris Stapleton, yeah, thank you. Nowhere near as good of a guitar player, but yeah, I can fucking Tennessee whiskey.
Yeah.
Any fucking way.
Anyway,
Let's enough.
yeah.
Quit flirting with
Yeah,
him,
well,
Jacob.
we're talking about country. We love that. There's nothing excluded from our podcast.
That's right.
No.
That's right.
But suffice it to say, I'm planning. That album, the Steel Drivers album, is like stupid expensive on Discogs, or else I'd have it and we'd be covering it soon. It might be one that I just can't get and bring up, but yeah, check that out for sure. But we've got other shit to talk about. Mainly Jacob's pick for this week. So what do you got for us today, man?
Yeah, so Stevie Wonder, In Square Circle, came out in 1985. This is the inside. It's a gatefold. It's a beautiful picture of him.
Oh, that's cool.
Running through the beach.
Running through the beach. Yeah.
And there's an insert on this. Actually,
yeah.
funny enough, I
Did
had
it
to
all.
get a couple of copies to get everything on this because it was kind of hard to find. But
Oh wow.
this is some of the singles.
Okay.
Pictures of him with the lyrics.
That's cool.
So yeah. It came out in 85. 5 years after he took like a little hiatus from music. He was still doing stuff. I think he did a soundtrack for a movie. And then he did something else.
Okay.
But like an actual album that he was working on, the last one that he did was the one with his face on it, which they all have his face on it. That's not specific.
Oh yeah. No. I don't
I think I know what you're
exactly
talking
what
about.
I'm talking about. Hotter Than July.
Yeah.
5 years after that, in 1980. This one came out in 1985. But yeah, this was like an album I like playing a lot just because I feel like the first half is kind of lovey-dovey R&B, and then the second half it's real kind of just all over the place. But not only what he's singing about, but also like his production style that he does. He's like all self-produced. He made all this himself. He's kind of like a one-man band. He did have some people on sax and trumpet here and there, but it's mainly just all him. But yeah, it's a pretty good album. One of my favorite album of his. Obviously, a lot of people talk about Keith's Life, but this one's also a really good one. So yeah, what do you guys think about it?
Congrats, you finally brought it up. I feel like this might be, especially lately, I feel like you've brought this, like just mentioned this album in passing a handful of times in like the past 15 episodes.
Yeah.
And so I was like,
It comes in every now and then.
yeah, every once in a while, like there would be something, I think it was, when a couple of times when we brought up maybe Newman or Plantasia, but I was like, when you brought this up last week, I got hyped because I was like, oh shit, we finally get to listen to, like, you've mentioned it so many times. I haven't gone and checked it out. But it's a really interesting album for Stevie Wonder, especially if you're not into it, like, you know, you haven't really dove into his full discography. This one's so interesting because he is really experimenting with, you know, more electronic sounds, which I found really, really interesting. You know, it's not just him at a piano or, you know, with a backing band. You know, not every Stevie Wonder song is going to be superstitious, but this one was like so far removed from the shit that he's well known for. So I really appreciated getting to dive into this.
You bring up a good point. It has more of that synth, that feel. It's a good time of like the mid 80s where that was just the instrument everybody was using. And I think he won a Grammy for this album for best performance too. I think he did a performance at the Grammys with himself, Herbie Hancock, Thomas Dolby, who did She Blinded Me by Science, kind of catchy 80s song, and then Howard Jones, nice. And they were all doing like a synthesizer jam.
Oh, that's sick.
I haven't looked for it on YouTube or anything, but that'd be cool to watch them all doing that together. But this album reminded me a lot of kind of when I grew up, and it's kind of like 6 or 7 when this album came out, and I remember listening to the radio a lot, and Part-Time Lover was a huge song, and I remember that being one of the first songs I heard on the radio. And Stevie Wonder's just got that mellow vocal to where it's just so like he's just talking to you like he's your best friend, and it's so smooth and easy to listen to. And this album I've never heard before besides that song. Yeah. So this was a great introduction for me. I've heard some of Stevie Wonder's older stuff from the the 60s and when he was vibing and like really young and that soulful vibe. And this had more of like it definitely has that 80s. That 80s
some maturity,
but it's so good. It captures that whole like that essence of that whole sound in the 80s
perfectly.
And I think he was able to do that throughout his career, whether it was in the late 60s and early 70s with his soul vibes and stuff like that. And then just going with the flow and changing with the season, like a lot of bands do, like Rush and things. You have to kind of cater to your audience, and I think he did a good job of doing that. That's why he stayed so popular for such a long time. Yeah, this album is so good.
And a lot of bands, artists, whatever, they kind of fall victim to not being able to progress, and they kind of just they just kind of stay locked into this one thing. For a perfect example, fucking Iron Maiden is still pumping out music, and it's like, dude, it's the same fucking thing that you've been putting out. Like, you should have stopped at Number of the Beast or like Issues or whatever that Illusions, whatever that album is. But that's a very good point. Like, he managed to just navigate all of the changes in the music scene, whether it was pop or R&B. He just kind of ground out his own little path through it, and it's like, hey, this is still Stevie, but he's progressing with the times, and this is a perfect fucking example of that.
Yeah, it definitely, you guys summed it up perfectly. It's such a capsule to the 80s to mid 80s that it has that electronic feel, that synthy feel, that he does it like so perfectly to Stevie Wonder. It's like when you think of Stevie Wonder in the 80s, this would be it. This would be the album. Everything else, all his other classics, like in the 70s, Songs Key of Life, like that's a classic, probably his best album, in my opinion. But this one, it's so much more different for him. He's still has the same R&B, lovey-dovey sound to him, but he is like changing it up with, the electronic style that he's doing. It's kind of more poppy, more synthy, like synth pop kind of. And also like cool harmonica solos that he has. Probably my favorite harmonica solo that he has on Never in Your Sun. That little break where he's going off on the harmonica. But
I don't really need vision to play the harmonica.
Yeah, right.
But he might.
Don't get me started on it. No, but I think it's great that he just encapsulated the 80s and like this album. One definitely that I feel like doesn't get as much recognition as it should.
Yeah, it doesn't.
But definitely one of my personal favorites.
Yeah.
I have I've been looking at copies for this. This is actually one of the first ones that I ordered off Discogs for like $6.
Hell yeah!
I think shipping was more than the actual.
I got fleeced on the shipping, but fuck.
Yeah.
It's a great deal.
I was trying to get everything, like all the inserts and everything, so I have like 3 copies of this.
Hell yeah.
They're all really cheap. It's like
so you just kind of like made it one.
Yeah.
And if you look underneath your chair, you're each leaving with a copy of this. Right? Fucking Oprah Winfrey.
That'd be good. But yeah, definitely. I think it's real. I think it's great that he still had such like a creativity of making like just hits after hits.
Yeah.
Even in the 70s, but that's like classic Stevie Wonder.
Yeah, that's Steve for sure.
This is like so much more advanced to what he was doing, and moving with the times, getting with everything, with the electronic, with making it sound more synthy. So it's cool that he, you know, was able to adapt. It was all self-produced. He produced this all himself. He was experimenting a lot more with electronic music. So I'm glad that I was finally able to bring this up. I know I've been sitting on this for a while. It's one that I'll play every now and then. Specifically, Never in Your Sun. That's probably my favorite Stevie Wonder song.
And to kind of, you know, yes, it did win a Grammy, which, you know, doesn't exactly mean that it was swept under the rug. But as far as not being appreciated in his entire catalog is wild to me. And I think, bear with me on this. I'm going to try to make this point, but I don't exactly know how to do it like successfully.
We'll steer you in.
I feel like you guys will understand where I'm going with this. Right. The era of the 80s that this came out in, you know, the mid 80s, it was the age of one-hit wonders coming out. You know, like the fucking Outfield, you know, random groups coming together, fucking Come On Eileen, you know, all of these bands that were just putting out stuff and somehow getting on the radio. And, you know, now they're like some of the biggest songs of all time. It was a weird era where people weren't listening to full albums. You know what I mean? And so the fact that like, hey, the Grammys, you know, recognize, hey, this is actually a really badass album, and then it's like you don't hear anybody talk about it is so weird to me. And it's like, oh, that's right. Everybody was listening to fucking Take On Me by Aha and not listening to full albums. It was just, people were just listening to singles for this weird period in time. And especially with like popular music and like R&B at the time, I don't know, it was...
That's a good point. It's at height of MTV music videos, and you're right. The singles or the videos that everybody's watching those, and they're just hearing that song. Yeah,
and they're like, I don't need to hear anything else by these guys. This song is great. And it's like, what if, you know, Aha actually kicked ass? I fucking doubt it. But what if that album that song was on was actually good? And you know, so I think it was just a weird era of people not really wanting to sit down and listen to something cover to cover. They were just obsessed with MTV and the singles. So all that to say, fucking this somehow people don't talk about, you know, 80s music. Stevie Wonder's name doesn't get brought up. He gets brought up for the shit, you know, from decades prior.
Because Part-Time Lover, like, who hasn't heard that song? Like, who hasn't heard that song? That song, it's classic Stevie Wonder's, and people kind of, if you, even on the album, it's the first song on the album, you listen to that song and you're like, okay, next song, you know, or next artist or whatever. But this whole album, it's got some great stuff. The song I Love You Too Much, that's really where you start seeing the electronic feel coming into it.
Very much so.
He starts experimenting with auto-tune, and you could hear him doing that, and he kind of does that, what's that called? Not skiing. Where you're going like
Scatting,
yeah. Exactly, like Scatman. Where he'll be doing that, but with like electronic, like the electronic effect on it. So, Spiritual Walker's also very electronic that he does that. So it's cool that he kind of has like built up such a catalog that it's over the years you see him still keeping his same sound, but just adapting it to the times.
Yeah. And one thing that I wanted to bring up about this was, we've mentioned it multiple times. It is kind of there's a lot of electronic feel to it. And I don't know who made the sounds first, but this album is fucking rife with stuff like synth sounds that are used in house music today, from SoundCloud DJs to fucking like Taiki New Light, Mala, Drezzo, like all of these super big DJs nowadays are using synth sounds that came maybe before this, but this is like the earliest iteration of some of those like deeper synth sounds are getting used in modern house, whether it's deep house, bass house. So this is actually really cool to look at that, and be like, wow, this actually didn't just influence, R&B and everything. It had a deeper thing to where almost 40 years later, we've got DJs in their bedrooms using some of these synth sounds to make completely fucking different music. There was, I wish I would have written it down, but there was a couple of times I was like, yo, I've actually, like, I've mixed with songs that have that fucking synth sound in it. Like, what?
Yeah, and it's like, it's the 80s, like, you know, it's still not super popular. It's he was still experimenting with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's like an R&B album that it has that feel that you can hear it and you're like, oh, okay, like it's self-produced. He's kind of doing a new thing, but he's making it his own. It's such a,
it's weird in the best way possible. I don't mean that in a bad way, because it is, you know, an R&B album, but the combined with the synths and everything, it's like, what? All right. It's like, hey, fucking keep it going, Stevie. Fucking not blind ass. There's conspiracies, okay?
No,
there are.
Don't. You started it.
I did. I'm just gonna touch on it.
It's a great album, but
it's a great album. But
there are theories
just happenstance this week, I've heard a couple of instances of people maybe questioning how impaired he is. Doesn't take away from the fact that he's a great musician.
Right.
I love Stevie Wonder. I think he's visually impaired, but there's funny fucking stories. Just look up Shaq Stevie Wonder story and then turn into Russell Crowe from A Beautiful Mind and go down the fucking rabbit hole.
Something in the water. Yeah.
But no, this is so it's so weird to me, you know, because it's like I feel like it didn't get love, but it got a Grammy. And it's so interesting, and it's such a good album. But it's kind of...
It's just lost, I think.
I feel like, it's kind of like in 85...
It came out at a time when there's so many things, like you said, going on with electronic music and one-hit wonders and all these other things that are happening.
Yeah.
And I think it stands alone, and that's why it is forgotten about.
Yeah.
Unless you're a fan of Stevie Wonder and know his catalog. Like, I would have never picked up this album.
Yeah.
Minus the song that I knew from the intro, Part-Time Lover.
Same here.
But it's such a good album. I think we've all just found a good appreciation for it, because like you guys all said, it captures that moment in time, which is cool.
I'm glad you guys liked it. It's definitely one of my favorites of his albums. Just a little different, little touch of modern for you. But yeah, if we want to get in top threes,
let's do it.
I'll kick us off.
Hit it, baby.
Honorable mentions, I'm gonna go It's Wrong. I love that he kind of, and this is kind of like a theme for him, he'll bring up something like in the times, at the time, or like not necessarily political, but something that's going on in the world.
Yeah.
So the song It's Wrong, Apartheid, like it's, you know, talking about like, you know, stuff that's going on in Africa at the time. And I think he had like a speech and performance that he did around this, which is kind of like powerful that he does that, because there was like stuff going on with slavery still then. And it's like, kind of has that tribal feel, but it's also like very much political, and the lyrics, I don't know what like language it is, but it's definitely like some dialects from Africa, I feel like. So honorable mention. Top three, I'm gonna go I Love You Too Much, Whereabouts, and then Never in Your Sun. That's my favorite Stevie Wonder song.
Hell yeah.
Hands down, yeah.
I dig it. You want to go next, or you want me to?
I'll go for it. Honorable mention, Part-Time Lover. Just great opening track, and one of the first songs I heard by Stevie Wonder back in the olden days. They had radios back then. Number three was Never in Your Sun. Like Jacob said, that's just a great track. It's Wrong, because it has it's as powerful as that song is in lyricism. It had for me like a memory of like reading Rainbow.
Yeah.
And like that, like something I saw in the show at one point, or maybe, I don't know, maybe Stevie Wonder was in, I don't remember. But it reminded me of that. My favorite track was Overjoyed.
Nice.
That's an underrated track. Yeah. I think a lot of people know that song, but they don't know what album it's on.
Yeah. Great one. Yeah. Overjoyed. Honorable mentions for me, Spiritual Walkers. Really like how Steve, you know, really fucking gets into it at the end of that track. You know, he's really belting it. Second honorable mention for me, It's Wrong, kind of across the board. I'll appreciate that one. Number three for me, Part-Time Lover. Hell of a way to kick off an album. Number two was Go Home. And then number one, Strangers on the Shores of Love. Actually, really dug that one.
Nice.
But yeah, dude, hell yeah. Thank you. I had
Yes.
never heard this one, and every time you mentioned it, I was like, okay, like Stevie Wonder doing electronic shit, whatever. All right, sounds cool.
We'll bring up another Stevie Wonder.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
This is his 20th album.
I saw. I'm glad that you brought it up before I moved on. I was like 20 albums, like Jesus, dude. Man's kills it. He kills it. But anyway, that was In Square Circle by Stevie Wonder, released in '85. We'll be right back to wrap it up and talk about my album for this week.
So we went up and we went down. Let's go around and round this
Yeah,
up.
I think it's time to go round and round and round this.
Round this up like a motherfucker.
It's a fucking. Let's go round and round like a rat song, dude.
I'll tell you why.
Looking at you. Oh man, fucking rat, dude. Shout out my dad for being into really off kilter shit, dude. Fucking rat. You ever hear Great White? Remember them?
Once bitten, twice shy.
Yeah. There's a fucking. That's a deep. That whole band is a deep cut. But there's might be on that same album. There's a song called "Never Change Heart." Great song. Check that out. Sorry, Matt and I just being.
I'm just reciting NSYNC lyrics just in my head.
Yeah. Show me. That's actually voice. Anyways, you know what, Matt? Let's go round and round this up. You're right. So in order to do that, we're going to go ahead and talk about my album for this week. Another one that I've also been sitting on for quite some time. It is an artist that we covered, almost 30 episodes ago, I want to say. Master of Puppets was like early.
Was it?
Yes.
Yeah, it was a couple episodes ago.
We had a fourth person back then, if that tells you anything. And for this week, I pulled out And Justice for All by Metallica. Their fourth studio album, released in 1988. The first one without Cliff Burton on bass. R.I.P. my boy. I've been in love with this album for over half my life at this point, so I could talk until the cows come home about it. So I'll let you guys kind of dive into it a little bit.
I'm glad you saved this one for last. It's a great album. It's one of Metallica's best albums. Sadly, it is the first without Cliff Burton. Yeah. I think he has writing credentials on To Live Is to Die.
Yep.
Which is cool that he still has some soul in that album. And we'll talk about it right away. The bass is not on here. You don't hear it as much, and it's sad, but minus that, this album is so good. The guitar work is amazing. The lyricism talks about everything. And I don't think a lot of people realize that when they dive into Metallica, as far as how they write their lyrics. Yeah, they're very political. They're very present. They're very all knowing about what they're talking about. Yeah. It's not just random metal shit. It's good stuff.
And that's something that's weird to me, that it took this album coming out for them to be like, oh, this has some political commentary. And it's like, did you not listen to fucking Master of Puppets? Exactly. That whole album has it talks about drug addiction, war. There's so much on that. As I was like, all right, so you guys were just not paying attention. Clearly, it's probably because there's such great bass work going on. But speaking of the bass work, before we move on, I actually screenshotted something today that I would like to bring up in that regard. Once Cliff Burton died, they held auditions for a new bass player. They got Jason Newsted, who was in a project called Flotsam and Jetsam. Couldn't tell you dick about them. I'm sure they were great. Jason Newsted was great. Did 2 more albums after And Justice for All with Metallica. This is one of the most polarizing albums among for music fans, but Metallica fans in general, because of the lack of bass. And it kind of put a sour taste in the mouths of a lot of the fans, because come to find out, it was James Hetfield and Lars Ulrich, the singer and then the drummer, who were kind of behind that. They're like, hey, turn the bass down to where you can just barely hear it, and then turn it down a couple decibels, which is kind of fucked. But this is a little excerpt from the Wikipedia article. Newsted was not satisfied with the final mix and was unhappy that the bass was inaudible. Thompson, who was the engineer, was also unhappy and blamed Ulrich for the decision. He tried to quit the project but was blocked by management. Fleming Rasmussen, who did Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets and is a fantastic producer in the metal world, was quoted in 2018 as saying, "I'm probably one of the only people in the world, including Jason Newsted and Toby Wright, the assistant manager, who heard the bass tracks on And Justice for All, and they are fucking brilliant." Which is a massive bummer because the guitar work, as you said, is so strong. As I was mentioning, the drum work on this is, in my opinion, the best out of the 4 album run from Kill 'Em All to AJFA. And so it's like, damn, you had so much good music shit going on, and then there's people that have heard the bass work on it and they're like, dude, it was brilliant too, and you guys just didn't. I don't know, man. Jason Newsted, I'm sorry that you got fucking shafted for so many years in Metallica, and that the last album you were on with them was fucking Saint Anger, because but anyway, I just had to bring up that excerpt because I play bass, and me and my buddy Cody have been wanting to play songs off of this, and I'm the one that's like, no, I kind of don't want to, because how am I going to I want to learn them, but it's like,
what's that?
I can't validate if I'm playing it right because I can't fucking hear anything.
Yeah. That's crazy. I didn't know that, because you don't hear a bass. You don't hear a bass on this. Mm-hmm. I didn't think about that till I was actually reading up on it. I was like, oh yeah, there isn't really a bass on this. It's kind of weird. But that's kind of interesting. I'd imagine, I don't know if it's out there. If someone has a master copy of, with the bass, then you can actually hear it. But yeah, I'd love to hear it to see how it sounded.
And the thing that's weird about it is that previously in the Wikipedia page for this, Hetfield is quoted as saying, "Yeah, well, he was basically just mirroring my parts, and with it louder in the mix, the instruments were indiscernible from each other." And then you get a paragraph later, you get Fleming Rasmussen being like, "No, they were actually really good," and it's like, so who's fucking?
And then you get years later, there's articles that are like, "Well, we toured so much back in that day, and we couldn't hear." So I was like, "Come on, dude! What's the truth? Just say that you didn't want him. You didn't want to hear it.
You guys were grieving. I get it, but you didn't have to be a dick.
It doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
And it's sad, like you said, for Newsted to not have that participation for this great album. I mean, he's on the album, but he's not, and it sucks.
Yeah,
as good as it is. And it's funny that this album lost to Jethro Tull at the Grammys for Album of the Year. That's like the notorious story. One won at the Grammys, but the album missed out.
And one didn't win until 2 years after this came out because it was the music video. Mm-hmm. And then
they won a Grammy for the Black Album, but that's that's besides the point. But
we'll talk about that.
That's another conversation for another time.
It's the Grammys,
and we talked about that before. It doesn't mean anything. It's just it's like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Who cares? Yeah. Everybody gets into that. There's no
I will say, for me, I've definitely had a lot of time with this album. Growing up, my cousins, they had Xbox because they had money, and they played.
Their parents loved them.
They played Guitar Hero 3, Legends of Rock, and 1 was on this.
Dude,
and that was one of my favorite songs to play of all time, and that got me into Metallica.
Hell yeah!
And it got me into this album, and man, was it good to come back to.
Yeah.
Not just the album in general, but everything from the non-existent bass to the guitaring, to the drumming, to the lyrics, to everything about it. This has definitely solidified my favorite album of Metallica. And I think with good reason, because every song on this is just killer.
Yeah.
It's killer. Back to front. The solos on it are insane. Classic Metallica that's just fucking nuts. And I'm like, I asked you guys before this, I was like, what sounds similar to this? It's like, it's
tough
kind of hard to put anything towards it.
It's because of how
pretty nuts.
And it is all of that. The reason behind it being hard to find anything like it is all of the reasons you just said. And it also, this album sometimes gets pegged as a progressive metal album because of the interesting use of time signatures. There's no, the verse chorus verse thing isn't really a popular theme throughout it, and it is just really showing off the musical talent of it, along with the lyricism is great. James Hetfield's vocal on this is really strong. I think stronger than Master of Puppets. But yeah, it's super hard to find anything like this, because it was, and the big four of thrash had been around for so long, so everybody was doing double bass drumming. But in my opinion, this is like, if you want to capture 80s metal drumming, you listen to this album, because Lars was fucking killing with this album. Like one, for example, to go to that the most iconic double bass roll you'll ever hear in your life. Like, every kid in high school band is trying to replicate that. I can attest, because I was one of those fucking kids.
Right.
Yeah, even with guitar, me and my buddies would like, oh, let's play one. Like, let's learn one.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'd learn one. Definitely not the solos. Fuck,
No.
fuck learning
Yeah,
that. But we'd learn like the regular like part to one. So yeah, it definitely had a big impact on me on not only rock music but metal music, and getting into Metallica really opened up like my mind. I was like, okay, this is the good stuff. Like, this is the iconic stuff.
Yeah.
This is Metallica.
Yeah,
So.
truly was. I remember hearing one on like the radio or something, and then my dad bought this album when he was doing computer work, and he lived in Lebanon. I would go visit him, and then we'd drive to fucking Salem, Corvallis, all over fucking Northern Oregon, and we would just play this album and just jam out. And dude, fucking, as I said off camera earlier, like, me and my brother Cody, we get together and we jam like as much of Master of Puppets as we still can, because we're not 19 anymore, and it's a little hard on the fingies. And from a playability standpoint, we prefer Master of Puppets because there's some good stuff in there and it's fun to play. But this is our favorite Metallica album to listen to. Like, both of us agreed. We're like, And Justice for All is much more fun to listen to, right? Master is just more fun to play. I said, yeah, because there's actual bass in it for me.
Right.
But, and that really says something. And then, when we all showed up today, I said, hey, let's like listen to one song off of each of our albums, like kind of get us into it. And Jacob flicked me shit because he's like, fucking 10-minute song, dude. And I was like, I picked Freight Ends of Sanity. It's a 7.5-minute song. I said I could have picked any of them. I could have given you a 9-minuter with Injustice for All, but I fucking didn't. And that was actually kind of a point of contention with the band and with the fans during touring. Like, when they were touring this album, they were like, they played Injustice for All, the song, one time, and they're like, we're never fucking doing that again. And they didn't for like 15 years or something. And they were like, I feel like they felt like the fans were getting bored because they're just playing these like, Grateful Dead
songs,
track length songs. Like, but it kills, man. Still, and it still holds up to this day. Like, listening to more modern metal, and then you go and listen to this, and you're like, dude, this is just leaps and bounds better than all that.
That's a
shit.
good point you mentioned, though, about the song length being that as long as some of them are. And at that time, before Tool was popular and stuff like that, you don't have bands doing this. Maybe Anthrax has some songs that are that long, but
Yeah.
in the thrash scene, Slayer's songs are pretty fast and short and sweet. This album, for sure, kind of like made that more accessible in this genre. Other bands have been doing it before, long ass songs, but I don't know. I remember this being one of the first albums I hear. I'm like, damn, like you said, these songs are long.
Yeah.
And the video for one, I remember that watching on MTV.
Yes.
Some of the sampling from the movie they use on there, and I always thought I'd hear it on the album. You don't hear it on the album, but
Yeah.
what a great video! And watching them play guitar in the studio, and it's kind of cool.
They say for war, a man would give his only begotten son. That fucking line is so killer.
Yeah.
And I kind of shit on Lars Ulrich off camera today, and I'll fucking do it again because I don't give a shit.
Just pick a different spot this time.
You motherfucker.
Yeah, the shit in the same spot. It's bad luck.
So Lars, like I said, this was his best drumming, and then after, like, you listen to the Black album, and it's like they went in a completely different direction, and then if you listen to anything that's come out since, this is it.
Yeah.
This is the climax of his drumming career. And speaking of Guitar Hero, I was I played fucking almost any iteration of Guitar Hero you could think of, and they had Guitar Hero Metallica at one point. Like, that was a game that they had. And when you played it, you could watch like the motion capture, because they did full motion capture with the band.
Oh, cool.
And the shortest straw is in the game. Excuse me. And this came out like 2011 maybe. And they have a video of Lars trying to do motion capture for it, and he just fucks up the intro like 5 times. That dun, dun, dun. And I was like, oh no, he can't do it no more. And then you watch like live stuff of him nowadays, and he's just doing 4 on the floor. I'm like, that's nowhere near what you used to do, but okay. And so it's like, but that's a testament to being like, dude, this whole album was so musically sound, and there was so much fucking talent on it that it's insane. And it really is, you know, a time capsule in their career to be like, hey, this is kind of the beginning of the end of their career.
It is.
But it's also the height of it. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, Master was great, everything before that was great, but this was just them showing off, like really just big dick swinging on this album, and that's why it's my favorite of theirs, and it's in my top 5 albums of all time.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, their solos on this are so nuts. So crazy. Like, every song on it has an iconic solo.
Yeah.
Every song on it. The solo on Shortest Straw is insane. The one on One, obviously.
Yeah. All 5 of them, or how many ever on One.
The way it starts. That opening solo.
And Justice for All, that one has like just a full like 2 minutes before there's any lyrics of them just jamming out. Like, every song on this is just nuts. Nuts. And for them to keep that same, like, imagine them doing a show of just this album, like, their hands would be melted. Like at the end of it. So I think it's definitely the powerful album, for not only for metal but for Metallica. Like, really. And thinking about that now, you mentioning that kind of makes sense to a certain point, where you're saying that this was like kind of at their height, at their peak, and then everything else after kind of was like
They're like, I'll give them their credit. There are some really good songs on the Black Album, but they don't hold a fucking candle to this. No. Like, you know, Sad But True, My Friend in Misery, of Wolf and Man, just to spout off a couple great tracks. Nowhere, like, they lose 11 out of 10 times to any fucking song off of this. And to touch on your point of imagine them playing this full album live, it never happened. Some of the songs on this didn't get played live until 15, 20 years after the album came out. Actually. Like Dyer's Eve, I think, To Live Is To Die, I think, like, both of those were 10 plus years before they were played live. Shit like that. Just wild. That's crazy. And it's in, you know, you read the back. I highly suggest, like, go read the Wikipedia article on this album, because it was there's just so much going on that it's just actually it's a very interesting read. It's like, shit, I would love, like, Fleming Rasmussen or somebody to write a book about this whole process, because I feel like he got kind of shafted a little bit, like, because him and a couple other people tried to leave at one point. I would really like to know what the process was and, like, get like a tell-all. That'd be really cool.
That would be cool.
Oh, goddamn, dude, this fucking album. There's just, you know, Frayed Ends of Sanity. There's that great drum fill that I showed you guys earlier. Cool. There's some beautiful guitar melodies going on at the beginning of the track Injustice for All. Blackened has there's a riff at the beginning of Blackened that can just get stuck in your head like it's fucking super glue. That that's just, that plays in my head all the time. But I'm glad that you guys liked it. I kind of knew you guys did. It's kind of why I brought it up. But let's go ahead and do top 3s, and I'll kick that bad boy off.
Do it.
Honorable mentions for me: Shortest Straw and One. One is just such a massive song. I would have felt like a clown putting it in my top 3, but it is easily one of my favorite Metallica songs.
Way to call me out, Dorian.
No, it's all good. I knew exactly that was going to be your number 1. Number 3 for me: Harvester of Sorrow. Always been a fan of that one. Number 2, the title track, Injustice for All, and then number 1, Frayed Ends of Sanity. That one has always been a top one of mine.
That was a good one. I'll start it off, or second it off. For me, honorable mention was Dyer's Eve.
Yeah.
Good song for sure.
Good one.
Number 3, Blackened. No, 1 is in my top 3. It's number 2 though. It's not number 1. It's not 1-1. Okay. And then my top song was The Frayed Ends of Sanity.
Yes.
That was a song I don't think I'd ever heard by Metallica. It was just
nice.
My top.
Honorable mention. I'm gonna go 1. I just listen. I've heard that song so many times. I've played it so many times on guitar and on Guitar Hero. I feel like Guitar Hero transferred over very poorly to the actual song. But it's a video game. Top 3, I'm gonna go the Shortest Straw, and Justice for All. I think every title track to an album has to be a banger.
Yeah.
And it's a banger. And then favorite song also, the Frayed Ends of Sanity.
Ooh,
Nice.
consensus top 3.
I was loving that song, hearing it. I was like, whoa, I have not heard this song. I think I might have skipped over it when I was first listening to this, like when I discovered it, but also super good. Also, Eye of the Beholder, also really good.
Yeah.
That's a good one too.
Eye of the Beholder, great one.
Yeah.
If it do it, what you be? Fucking great stuff. Anyways, that was my pick for this week, which was And Justice for All by Metallica. We're going to go ahead and, put just a big fat bow on it and show y'all what's coming next week for episode 53. But we'll be right back to do that. Okay, it's time.
It's that time. That time we like the most.
I do believe it's that time. It's time for us to introduce what's coming for episode 53 of Whatchu Spinnin. We just had a great time covering 3 very good, very, very different music selections from all 3 of us for episode 52. And I'm interested to see what's about to come. So we'll go in the order we talked today. Matt, why don't you go ahead and kick us off, my man?
Oh, it's going to be different again. That's how
Hell
we do
yeah.
it. That's how we do it. I'm going back to some of my roots. So back to 1978, which is when this album was originally recorded. Didn't come out until the mid-90s, but the Misfits, Static Age. Very fast and aggressive album.
I got something to say.
A lot of inspiration for Metallica behind the Misfits, and Cliff Burton, and I don't know. Just a
great album.
Glenn Danzig, say what you want about him, but the Misfits are pretty iconic for
muscly bastard
for that
Just
era.
Thick, short man.
And this album has a lot of catchy songs. Their catalog's not the biggest. The Glenn Danzig area. I mean, it kind of ventured off after that.
Yeah, probably the most tattooed band logo of all time.
Probably,
if we're being
right.
completely honest.
Right.
Fuck yeah, Misfits, Static Age.
Nice.
Let's go. What you got, man?
Yeah, I'm going to go something more recent that came out last month, but there's been a lot of singles about it recently. It's Over Mono, Good Lies.
Ooh.
It's a kind of house dance album.
Hell yeah.
Came out a month ago, a little less than a month ago.
The last time you and I hung out here, you were playing some of that.
That's right.
I was very impressed. Over Mono, Good Lies, and it's a good dog on there too.
Yeah, it's got the dog.
This one is kind of like an underground hip hop staple, an album that I really appreciate. We're going Deltron 3030 by Deltron, which is Del the Funky Homo Sapien. You might know him from Clint Eastwood by the Gorillaz and a couple other people on it. We'll get into that a little bit more next week though. But Deltron 3030.
Solid pick.
Thank you. Fucking Misfits, Over Mono, and Deltron. Shit, guys.
It's all over the place.
All over the place once again. All over the place once again.
There we go.
But hell yeah. Yeah, Ollie? Alright, dude.
Yeah.
Nice.
Sorry.
Great comment. I like
that's
that.
that's our sign to sign off. I'm Dorian. That's Matt. That's Jacob. This has been Whatchu Spinnin' episode 52. Have a great week. Stay cool. Stay hydrated. It's getting hot out there. And we'll catch you next time for Whatchu Spinnin' episode 53. Peace out.